What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Love and Rice podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
And if you guys are not subscribers, make sure to do so. We are on all podcast platforms and YouTube. The podcast platforms are Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio. I feel like I'm missing something, but you guys know the gist of it. And, Spotify?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think you said Spotify.
All right. So if you guys have not been to our Spotify, give us a review, a rating, drop some comments on Spotify because they allow you to do that now. Sometimes we put some polls on there. So if there's a poll, go ahead and vote on it because they're pretty cool and we like to see what you guys answer to them. And then also we are on Instagram and TikTok, Love and Rice Podcast. So make sure to give us a follow. And going into this episode, I want to talk about how, we've all been in good and really bad relationships, and sometimes we miss the other person after ending the relationship, right?
Yeah, sometimes there's regrets.
Right. So a lot of times you always have those thoughts, can it really work if we tried harder, And in this episode, we're going to be talking about trying to reconnect with your ex. And I don't know if that's a good topic for us to talk about because we've been married for about 12 years now.
Yeah, you will always find us like going back and forth at each other's throats and stuff in these episodes. But I mean, it's always good to have these conversations, right?
Well, what's good about it is that you have your female perspective, I have the male perspective.
True.
And, we get both sides to listen. So it's good for, the females to hear my side because they don't usually get to hear a guy's perspective, right? They usually just go to their group of girls and they talk and try to figure things out. But you have a guy here that's actually telling you things that mostly all guys kind of, talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's helpful because it's like whenever you bring up a point to a certain topic, I can always give you my insight and then you always give me yours. So it's kind of like good to find that middle ground at the same time and to understand what the other person is thinking.
I think that's why I find a lot of new things about you because they're from the women perspective.
Yeah.
So I really like doing this podcast with you.
Yeah, and I think that's how it should be in every relationship too because you should never stop learning something new about your significant other.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is something I don't know if I want to know and learn from my significant other here, but how many people have you broken up with and how many people have broken up with you?
I mean, I don't have like a specific number of people that I can really think of.
Whatever number it is times 3, right?
What is that rule? I've never heard that before.
That's when they do the body count.
Oh.
So they tell you a body count and a girl says it's times 3.
Oh.
And then if a guy says it, I don't know what the formula is, but it's way under.
Oh, so guys like to exaggerate and girls try to underplay it, I guess. Yeah, that's another crazy topic too, because it's like, why can guys like have all these girls, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, they're so cool, they're so wanted, and then when girls do it, it's like, oh, she's a hoe.
No, it's not that. It's like it's two different sides of shame, right? So when girls have too many bodies, it's a lot of shame is what people think, right? And then when guys don't have enough bodies, that's also shame. So like normally guys is, it's like under 10 or something. So, guys are not exaggerating and saying like 50 bodies. They're just saying like 10 and then really it's like 3.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's true and it depends on who you're telling because if it were me and a guy told me like they had a really low body count, I'd be like, cool. I would feel special and be like, all right.
Do we need to get into this and ask body counts?
I have no idea. Don't ask me to count because I'm going to have to like really think about it and I don't want to. I don't want to think back about all the people that I've like slept with and stuff like that.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I want to know about you either.
Does every married couple know about each other's body counts?
I think it depends because some people would rather just not know because the past is the past and it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either.
All right. Well, going back to
how did we even get to that?
Going back to the breakups.
Okay.
Do you break up with the guy more or do they break up with you more?
I feel like the times where I would break up with someone, it would probably be a mutual thing where we're like, okay, well, it's getting too heated or it's just not working out at the moment. And then it's like a neutral breakup where it's like we just need time off and see what happens.
You've never like just really broke up with a guy before just because you didn't like them anymore or something happened?
No, I have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we're talking about reconnecting with exes and stuff, right?
Right.
So I feel like usually when that happens, it's because like it just becomes too overwhelming and it's not working and it's becoming too toxic at that moment. So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's just call it a quits and then just see what happens. But it's not so much of like, okay, let's call it a quits and let's see if we can get back together later. It's more of like, let's go with the flow and see how we do on our own and then whatever happens with that.
So, okay. So you're talking about you've only reconnected with the breakups that were mutual.
I would say yes. Yeah, where it feels almost like it's kind of like you don't have a choice at the moment.
I see. Mine's a little different. None of my breakups are really mutual.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe one after a lot of going back and forth, it became mutual. But I would say that every single breakup I've had was me breaking up with the girl.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's just something would happen, you know, either I wasn't feeling it or they did something to me, cheated on me or whatever, and I would break up with them. And so for me, when I reconnect with those exes, it's not for a very, very long time.
So when you break up with these exes, do you have the thought of like, oh, maybe you can try to work things out again in the future? Or is it just more of like like what I was saying, just end it and see what happens, go with the flow?
So usually it's I break up with someone and then maybe a year later or 2 years later, after other relationships that would not work out, I would reach back out to the exes and then I would be like, okay, let's just try it for a day or for a night and see what happens. And yeah.
So I guess like from a guy's perspective, if you are doing that, are you doing it to try to like just hang out again and see what happens, or like how does that work for you? Because I think I've gotten mixed signals from guys before, so I don't know if they're just like coming back and like they just want to talk again and like be friends, or are they trying to like date you again after like ghosting you for a while?
I think, okay, so there's times where I would try and talk to someone again that I broke up with, and I would just talk through phone or messages and see what happens there to see if there's any synergy.
Okay.
Right? And if there's no synergy, I'm like, okay, it's weird. I'm moving on.
So it's like starting a friendly conversation all over again.
Yeah, just seeing where it goes, right?
Okay.
Then there's other ones where it's like, maybe I just want some sticky.
You're only using that word because of that movie, that show that we've been watching. What is it called?
Warrior.
If you guys have not seen that show on Netflix, like we got so into it. We've been watching it every night and it's so crazy. And when they talk about like getting busy, they call it getting sticky. And I think that's the weirdest
so if you've never seen,
term to use.
If you've never seen the show called Warrior, it's so good. So it's from the writings of Bruce Lee, and they finally brought it to life and obviously had their own writers to really make it all come together. But it's about these gangs, these Chinese gangs living in the past, those, you know, in the times when the immigrants were building the railroads in San Francisco. And there was a lot of racism at that time with the Americans and the Chinese. And it's just a long battle and fight and violence. And there's a lot of sex in it. And it's,
yeah, that was interesting.
Right? There's so much stuff. But yeah, like you said, they call it sticky.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there'd be times when maybe I would just call the girl just because I'm like, okay, let's try and just see what happens for the night.
Yeah.
And then what happens the next day. But when those happen, it gets even more weird.
So I have a question for you then, because I've been in some situations where it's like I will be talking to a guy and then I won't hear from him again for a while, and then he keeps coming back. Like we won't talk for a few weeks and then he'll come back and like start talking to me again, and then we'll like hit it off, and then after he like ghosts again for however long. And it's not like I ever did anything with those people,
Yeah.
but they would just like talk to you again and kind of be like they'll show interest, but then they'll ghost you again and then come back, and they keep doing that. Like, why do guys do that?
You're not the priority.
Okay.
So it could be that maybe one, they're thinking they're not even trying to be in a relationship, but they like you. Or they don't have time. So it goes kind of like back and forth, interest and then no interest, right? Then the other thing could be maybe there's other girls and they talk to other girls. The other ones they talk to have more interest in you, and then they go for that one, and then things don't work out, and then go back to you, and it goes back and forth. But whatever it is you're not the priority, whether it's something they're doing or another girl that they're talking to.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So how many of your exes have you tried to reconnect with?
I would say there's probably maybe just a few, like not even a handful, I would say.
And how does that even happen? Like, how does reconnecting happen? Like, how long are you broken up for before you reconnect? And like, who reaches out, you or them?
It kind of goes both ways. So I've noticed that like in some of the relationships that I'm in, and then, it just becomes so bad. And I'm like, I can't do this because like you're driving me crazy and like it's not working out. Maybe the timing is off, right? So then we split up.
So what makes you think that it'll work again later?
Well, I don't know. I think it's more of the fact that like I like that person and I wanted it to really work. But then at the same time, just knowing that like maybe our heads weren't in the right places. Maybe we need some time to grow up. We need to mature. We need to date other people to see like if we want to come back to that person, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not giving each other hope of like, okay, well, we're going to split up and we'll try to get back again later. It's more of like, well, we're going to go our separate ways and it is what it is. But then I think it gives you time to like date other people. And then you're like, oh, well, okay, well, this didn't work out. Maybe I want to try and reconnect with this person again to see how it goes. But then, like, once you get into that relationship, I feel like because you've broken up once, there's like baggage and there's resentments that you hold on to. So it's like you get triggered a lot easier because you've been with this person and you've had this history of things. So then, like, when you see that they're doing the same things that you didn't like before, like it triggers you again. And then you get just as upset, if not more, because you're like, why is this person still the same? Like, this is why we broke up in the first place, because like they just weren't ready to grow up. They weren't mature enough or whatever it was.
So when you reconnect with in a relationship, should it start fresh or should it continue from where it left off?
I think it should start fresh. And I feel like that's probably the best way for it to work, because if you're continuing where you left off, like what was the point? Why did you break up in the first place? You're supposed to have that clean break and try to like start fresh.
Then why can't people do that?
It's hard because you have that history. Like you can't just forget everything that happened in the past. Like some people, they can, but I feel like for most people, like it's a hard thing to do unless you really, really, really want to be with this person.
Yeah, it's true. So like if there's a girl that cheated on me and then 2 years later, I want to call her for some sticky. Right. And then like,
I wouldn't.
And then like the next, I don't know, if she does something weird, you're like, okay, yeah, that wasn't right.
Right. And then you'll be like, oh, she's cheating on me again. She must be like talking to some other guy behind my back. And then you'll always have those feelings. Like, you just don't get over it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure you've been on both sides where the guy has tried to reconnect with you and you try to reconnect with the guy. So like for the times that you have reconnected with the guy, how do you go about that? For to explain to the girls who are listening that want to try and reconnect with their guys, what did you do?
Well, I mean, for me, the times that I've reconnected with exes, it didn't work out.
Yeah, but what do you do? Like, you call them, doot, 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 doot. Hello? Hi, I miss you.
No.
Like, what's going on?
I think you start off just by being like friendly again, and you start off trying to be friends. And I've noticed that I would do that. Yeah, I would like just talk to them again, like just out of nowhere. I would just text them again and be like, hey, like, how's it going? How have you been? And stuff like that.
Is that weird when you text them out of nowhere?
Well, I think back then it was more of like online chatting and like AIM and stuff. So it was kind of different than texting. Yeah. And then I was like, it was easier to talk and chat online than it was to like call people or talk on the phone.
Yeah,
that was our time.
You know why? Because when you do the AIM, the instant messaging, it's easier to ghost after, right? So like if you just randomly message them and be like, "Hey, how's everything going?" and then they respond, and you're like, "Okay, cool." And then it could just be like that.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. And that was normal. Like if people didn't respond to you, you're like, oh, well, because you're talking to other people at the same time.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter. But when you're texting and you're like, okay, well, this person's not responding. I don't know if you end up taking it more personal because you're like, and then you have the red receipts and stuff too. So you're like, dang, I really got ghosted, right?
Well, yeah, a phone is definitely more personal because a phone goes in your pocket, goes in your purse, you're holding onto it in your hand. But when it's like instant messaging back in the days, you have to go on your computer and log in and do these things. So you're kind of like, it's not as personal.
Yeah.
You're getting into the zone of like being on the computer. But
yeah, but I think for me, the times of reconnecting, it was more of like, even if they're not like as serious of relationships, but then I'll just be like, okay, well, maybe it's just like not the right timing. So then if I end up reaching out to them again and I'm just like chatting with them and then we're just like talking like normal before, right? And it's not so much of like, maybe a little bit of flirting, but like not so much of like, oh, like let's date and stuff like that. So it's like, and not really saying anything and just seeing where it takes you.
Sounds like you're just leading them back into it. You're reeling them in.
Well, because it's kind of like you want it to work and then you try to jump back into it again, but slowly to see where they're at, like mentally. Yeah. Right. And then, there have been times where that would happen. And then it just always goes back to like, OK, well, this isn't why it worked out. Because like for some examples, it'll be like, OK, well, there are people that I've dated and then like they weren't they didn't initiate things enough. Right. So then I'd be like, oh, OK, well, they're still not doing that. They're still not initiating things. So I'm like, I'll just take it as a sign of like, OK, well, I guess I'm just going to move on and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For me, at some point, I've reconnected with most of the people that I stopped talking to, but then I've never dated them again, ever. Never. I think for me, it's because I'm that person where it's like, once I lose your loyalty, I'm done. Right? I'll have a friendly chat or whatever to see how you're doing, but I'm not going to go back to you. And that's the same thing with friends, right? When a friend does something disloyal to me, I'm just walking away.
But what if it's the girls that you lose interest in? Do you just don't pick up interest ever again in them?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So once you're done, you're done.
Yeah. There was one girl who was like, I just didn't like something about her, and then I broke up with her very fast, and then she would try to come to my work and be like, hey, what happened, or do all this stuff, and I'm like, dude, get out of here, like I don't want to talk to you at all.
Yeah.
Like, I told you it's over, and that was like a lot of my relationships.
Yeah, I feel like just reconnecting with an ex is always a hard thing because it's kind of like being in those toxic relationships where you're like, okay, you're on and off. You keep having these huge arguments, then you'll break up. And then like a week later, you get back together. And it's just like a vicious cycle. And I feel like
Are you thinking that when you break up with them, that it's like it was a mistake and that's why you try to reconnect?
I don't think it's really a mistake. It's more of the like,
you just miss the feeling.
And then being in the relationship and you're like, okay, I think a lot of the times it's like, oh, I know it's not good for me and we probably shouldn't be together. Like we're not a good fit, but you miss the part of being together and you're like, oh, I've invested so much time, so much energy. Like we've been together for this long. And you try to think of all the things that makes you hold on to the relationship and you try to convince yourself as to why it could work and why you should get back together.
It sounds like from our conversation today that it never works out when you try to reconnect.
It does.
Like, it doesn't, right?
It hasn't for me. Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I just don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've tried and then it's just the same thing. Like the same things that irk you will be the same things that irk you like if you try again.
So does that mean every time you've tried to reconnect, you've regretted it?
I mean, I wouldn't say I regretted it. Sometimes you just like hold on to that little bit of hope of like, oh, that they'll do better and they'll know better. And then after that, you're just like, okay, well, I tried and that's it. So it's not so much of regret. It's just like, okay, well, I did it. Sucks that they didn't try harder or try to change. But in the end, there's not much regret.
As long as you try, it's worth the try, right? And we never really see that happen. Do you see happen to your friends?
I mean, I've seen people who have gone through toxic relationships and then they end up going back to that person. And then I feel like they kind of end up losing friends along the way and like family and stuff.
And then each other, right? Like it just prolongs.
Yeah.
Everything.
Or they end up staying together anyway. So it's one of those relationships where it's kind of like it was me and my ex at one point and my brother stopped talking, right? So imagine like, you have all these people who see you go through all of these like bad things in the relationship. They know that you're not good together. And then every time you have like something that happens and it's a stupid problem.
Yeah.
Your friends always have to hear about it, right? And then they try to be there for you. They try to give you advice. But then you end up going back to that person. So like as that friend, you're just like, I'm done with you too, So I've seen it.
I've been that friend where I'm like, I would tell the homie all the time that she's not good, that she's treating him wrong and whatever. And, like you guys don't have the same interests. You're not doing what you used to do and stuff like that. And so I would just back away and let my friend do his thing with his girl until he breaks up with her. And sometimes that's like a year.
Yeah.
And then after they break up, I'm like, all right, we're friends again.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, like I've had a relationship where I've noticed also, like it was such a long story. I don't even know if I want to go into all the details, but I've noticed that when I try to get back with an ex, and it was like a serious relationship, that his resentment towards me from the past relationship continued on when we tried to reconnect again. And when we tried to reconnect, it was like years down the line. Like we both dated other people and like we didn't talk to each other at all, but we tried again and like all these things would just come up from the past. So it's like as much as we tried to make it work, like he had things that would come up that he was upset about with me, and there were things that I was hoping he would change about himself from the first relationship, but like he was still the same person.
Yeah, and I think that's why I never really try to work it out again.
Yeah.
With past relationships. I think I would try to be friends with my exes, and it ends up that I'm not friends with any of my exes.
Oh, like you would try to start over and rekindle
and just be
that friendship?
and just be a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing romantic, nothing like that, nothing intimate. It's just like mutual friends.
Yeah, I feel like as a girl, every time I tried to do that, like the guys that had interest in me, they would take it the wrong way, because I guess that's another thing too, because they would always have that in the back of their mind, like, oh, well, we dated, or I always liked her and now she's talking to me again, but when I'm just trying to like be a friend. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like when girls do that, it kind of leads the guy on, even if they're just like being themselves and not like flirting and stuff like that.
Are you friends with any of your exes?
As of right now, I don't think so. I've like stopped talking to all exes pretty much since I've been married.
That's right.
Yeah, what about you?
I am not friends with any exes.
And do you follow any exes on social media?
I might follow two.
Mm-hmm.
But one is someone that I only dated for like a month, and that was in high school.
Okay.
So that doesn't count.
Okay.
And I'm married and she's married.
Okay.
Okay. And then this other one is, I don't know if we follow each other or not. Maybe at some point, or maybe we do, but I don't see any posts. So maybe I don't anymore. But this was the ex that when you had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know. Maybe I think at that time when I was seeing her post, her fiance is like a nurse or something like that. And I don't know how the conversation started. Did I post something about your miscarriage? No, right? No way. Did I?
I have no idea. That was so.
I don't know if I posted something like when we were at the hospital. No, we were not. This was before the hospital. But something happened where a conversation started, and she's like, "My fiance works at the ER," and then I was like, "Oh, really?"
I think I kind of remember.
And I was like,
I don't remember who though.
And then I was like, "Can you get us in?" Maybe this happened while we're at the waiting room.
I do remember that happening.
Right. So yeah. I think maybe we're at the waiting room. You had your miscarriage and you're bleeding out. So I'm gonna back up this whole story. So we're at home and you're starting to have a miscarriage, right? And you're in our bathroom at home and all this blood comes out and whatnot, right?
Oh my gosh.
And we're like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And let's go to the hospital because we think you're having a miscarriage.
Yep.
Right? You call the doctor and they're like, come in right away. We go to the emergency room and they're having us wait for like hours and you're in pain. Your stomach hurts, you're bleeding and stuff. And maybe that's when I got on my phone and I was like, who can I contact here?
Oh my gosh. You're like talking about it. And I'm like,
yeah, it was a hard time. And I feel like we should do an episode about the miscarriage because that's what started this whole YouTube journey for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like every time we talk about it, I'm like, it's been so long. I don't know how to like go back to the feelings. But when you're talking about it, I'm like picturing like the blood and the like tissue that was like passing through. And it's probably also because I just got my period, so I'm like very like emotional. But yeah, I was like, I don't think I would tear up thinking about the miscarriage again. And it's been like how many years?
Yeah. Well,
and we're talking about exes right now. Why are you talking to your ex?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I think I saw that her she would post her fiance would be a nurse or something.
I remember that happening.
It turned out he was the nurse at the hospital while we're waiting, and she's like, "Let me call him," and then he got us in right away.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like she's like, I'll have him take care of you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like that was my first real girlfriend. And I ended up breaking up with her because she cheated on me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And this was like, I don't know, 2000. So like 10 years later.
It was like 2015.
Right.
Maybe, right?
And my relationship with her was like somewhere between 2004 and 2005 or 2003.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Right. So 10 years later,
yep.
I find out her fiance works at the exact same hospital and I had to reach out to her. And be
it's so crazy. I don't remember how that happened, but yeah.
So it's like, and then now, since that's happened, obviously I said thank you and all that stuff. But we didn't maintain a friendship after that. I don't see any posts from her after that. So I'm like, I don't even know if we follow each other anymore.
I don't know.
Maybe we never, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't either. So that's like my only closest thing of being a friend with an ex. And I don't even know if we're friends.
Yeah.
But her husband helped us.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I feel like we've been together for so long that I can't remember all the past relationships, but
yeah, I'm not friends with
detail.
I'm not friends with any other ones. It's just it's weird. It's not good. Weird.
Yeah, or I feel like if I try to maintain a friendship with them, I feel like some of them may be more hurt about it because I didn't end up choosing them. So they'd rather just like maybe cut ties and not talk to me at all.
Yeah, I hate all the other ones.
Oh,
I hate them. They hate me.
Why? I mean, I hope that they don't hate me, but I feel like
I don't give a shit if they hate me because I hate them.
Well, I mean, I don't hate some of these exes. I just feel like they probably resent me for not trying harder with them, or that I just didn't choose them. Yeah,
but that's not your problem.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, Because I think like there've been exes before, and then when I met you, and then there would be people who were trying at the time who were exes, and then trying to, I guess like when I was still working at the bar, right, there were still exes that were trying to talk to me and stuff. But then eventually at the end, I ended up being with you. So I feel like they cut ties with me and didn't want to talk to me anymore because I chose you. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
What?
I hate having my period.
Why?
Because I was like just sitting here and I'm like, why are my eyes getting watery again? But it's crazy because we haven't talked about the miscarriage for so long. And then like when you're describing it, I get flashbacks and I remember, like, I don't know if I showed you like when I was passing the like tissue and the blood clots and stuff like that. That was like so traumatizing, right?
I saw it in the toilet.
Yeah.
It literally looked like the fetus was in the toilet.
Yeah, because we didn't know. And I'm like, are those, is that the baby? Like, what is that? Like, it was such a crazy thing to go through.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we'll... guys, if you want to hear our miscarriage story and how it happened and how we got over it and now how we have 2 beautiful kids, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you want us to talk about that. I think it's going to be one crazy episode if you want to hear it. But yeah, post it in the comments. So are you, going back to being I guess, friend or not friend with one of my exes, does that make you jealous?
No, I mean, I think we're way past that point, but it's because you were going, yeah, that's right, because I don't talk to my exes, so I had to say something back, but I really don't care.
I don't really care if it's just like a hi here and there or something.
I mean, just to be cordial, like we're all mature and old enough to be able to like be friendly, but you don't have to really be friends.
Like, even if we went to a dinner somewhere together and then we bumped into an ex and you're like, hey, meet this guy. This guy was my ex from like 20 years ago. I'd be like, oh, cool.
I think I did do that one time.
When?
Yeah. We went to a restaurant, but I told you after. I didn't tell you like
I don't remember. That's how much I don't care.
Yeah. Well, you don't care because the specific person, we met at like a restaurant, and then he's also like a food blogger now too. And then we dated in high school. And then when I introduced you, like he was talking about his boyfriend. You know?
I remember.
So I think that's probably why you didn't care, because he ended up not liking girls in the end. Yeah.
How's that for you when like you break up with someone and then they become gay? Like
so it's so crazy when I think about this. So in high school, there were 2 guys that they were a year older than me, and I went to their proms with them also, their senior proms, and I really liked them a lot because they had the funny personality, and they were doing a lot of things that were questionable, like the way that they were acting, the way that they were talking stuff. But I was so oblivious. Like I guess because people weren't so like obvious, like if they were gay and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I had no idea. And then as I got older and I saw them like starting to like date guys and stuff like that. And I think we were probably following each other on social media before. Like before we even got together. And then I would see it and I'm like, oh damn, like I had no idea, but I should have known. Like there's so many signs and everything that they were doing that I should have just known that they like didn't like girls.
Were you okay with that after you broke up and you found out, or did that mess with your head?
It didn't mess with my head because it was such an innocent, playful kind of relationship. And it wasn't even like getting into a relationship either. Like with one of them, like we would just always like flirt with each other, and he would do all these like things, and I was just like, oh, he's just so goofy. I had no idea. And I was friends with his brother, and I feel like his brother was probably like, he would look at me and be like, okay, like she has no idea. And I think about that stuff and I laugh about it because I'm like, I just didn't know. And that just shows that I like people for their personality. And even if they did questionable things sometimes, I'm like, oh, you're just being silly. Yeah. But yeah. And then there was another guy too.
Whoa, how many gay guys have you dated?
Two. And it was like they were in the same grade and stuff. And
I've never dated a lesbian before.
But I didn't know. Like with this other guy, like he seemed like, in high school and at that age, I feel like they're probably trying to figure out, like they're probably just like, oh, well, no, I'm going to try to date girls because that's how it should be. But at the same time, as they got older, they're like, no, girls aren't for me, So I don't take it as anything. Like the other person, he actually really tried to pursue and wanted to be in a relationship and stuff. But I was just like, I don't know. It was just the timing that wasn't right. But do I question like, oh man, like I turned them gay or anything like that? I made them realize they didn't want girls. No, I didn't think that at all.
How soon after you broke up with them they like came out the closet?
Oh, long time. I think a lot of them like either they didn't know or they were trying to fight it or they just didn't want people to know. That was like when we're all grown-ups.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like break up with you and then the next relationship is okay.
I don't think they knew for sure or they didn't know how people would accept it. Because back then, like, people were very, like, secretive about stuff like that.
That's wild.
I know.
That's wild. Well, props to you for not letting that get to your head.
Yeah, because it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with them,
Because I feel like other girls who went through that, they'd be like, whoa, what's wrong with me? I must have messed up that guy so bad that he turned gay.
Well, I mean, if it's really one of those situations where you actually dated someone and then after, like, right after you date, their next person is, like, the opposite sex, then I'll be like, oh, damn, I turned them, like...
Like, what if you were Kris Jenner,
Oh,
and, like, you were married and you had kids, and then all of a sudden your husband became a woman? Why are you looking at me?
Because you're my husband right now.
I'm not trying to bring up something because of me. Like would
that would hurt me,
right?
That would hurt me because they're in such a long relationship.
Do you think that would be your fault?
Yeah, I would be like, what did I do? Like, how did this happen? And what did I do wrong to make this person not like women anymore? Then I would be questioning things.
But then, like, Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner was saying that this was before the marriage.
Yeah, but then you don't know that. And it kind of blindsided her too and the whole family because they've like went about it for so long and had kids and they thought things were fine. And then all of a sudden, like there's this huge secret, like he kind of hid it from the whole family. So I would feel betrayed, Damn. Yeah.
All right, well, here's my secret. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I don't have any secrets.
Sure. Everyone has secrets.
Okay, what's your secret?
If I tell you, it's not a secret anymore.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. What I've learned is that if you're trying to reconnect with your ex, don't.
But also, like we always encourage you guys, like share your stories because I know every situation is different for anyone. And whatever you went through in those relationships where you felt like you could rekindle things again, like leave a comment below and share your story with us. Like I feel like there are a lot of listeners and viewers who would like to hear it too.
I'm sure there have some that have reconnected and they actually got married.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah, but we haven't seen those, and that's not us.
Yeah, so timing is everything.
It's got to be very rare.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's like it just never really works out, and I don't know. I just feel like don't waste your time.
Or
that's my advice.
If you start again, you have to start fresh and you have to just let go of all the resentment. And then I think it can work.
That's great advice.
Yep.
When you start fresh, you really have to start fresh. Let go of the baggage.
Yeah. And I think it goes for every relationship. Like even if we have our differences too, like we would not necessarily start fresh, but you have to let go of the resentment to be able to move forward and progress.
Here's a secret to us being married for 12 years. It's we let go of a lot of baggage and resentment.
Yeah, you have to. Yep. And all that childhood trauma.
Yep.
Just let it go.
All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a nice rating on Spotify. Subscribe to all of our podcasts platforms, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify once again. And we are on YouTube and Instagram and
We're
TikTok.
on everything.
So Make sure, guys, if you haven't, please give us a follow, and we'll see you on the next episode of Love and Rice Podcast.
Bye-bye.